Oh, snappity snap snap.
Let me tell you something. Just because I ain't my baby daddy doesn't mean you get to talk about my baby daddy.
Well, yes, I am. I'm having a baby with my boyfriend, Stefon Diggs.
One night, one stadium, and somehow he walked in with everything and walked out with nothing. Super Bowl Sunday was supposed to be Stefon Diggs' redemption story, bright lights, national anthem, cameras locked in, the biggest stage in sports, a championship ring within reach, his superstar girlfriend performing during halftime, a $1.2 million after-party planned, the world watching. By midnight, the Patriots had lost 29-13. By sunrise, Cardi B had unfollowed him. And just like that, the fairy tale cracked in front of millions. But here's the part that really has people talking. It wasn't just the loss on the field, it was the optics. The cold good luck before kickoff, the baby mama sitting front row, the canceled celebration, the silence afterward, the alleged messages, the internet split down the middle. Did he fumble the biggest game of his career and his relationship in the same night? Or was this collapse months in the making? Because when you rewind this story, you start to realize something uncomfortable. Super Bowl Sunday didn't destroy the relationship, it exposed it. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Before there was Stefon Diggs, there was emotional exhaustion. Cardi B didn't walk into this relationship as a carefree woman looking for fun. She walked in bruised. Her marriage to Offset had officially collapsed in 2024, but the cracks had been visible long before the paperwork. She had spoken openly about feeling disrespected, not just cheated on, disrespected. She said the betrayal hit harder because it involved women she personally knew. That changes everything. That makes it personal. By the time she filed for divorce, it wasn't about headlines anymore. It was about peace. For months after the split, she kept a lower profile romantically. No flashy rebounds, no public dating circus. Fans noticed she seemed guarded, quieter about her personal life. When she finally started being seen around Stefon Diggs in late 2024, the reaction wasn't skepticism, it was hope. Here was a star athlete, successful, confident, seemingly stable, a man outside the rap industry chaos she had been living in for years, someone who didn't share history with her ex, someone new. By early 2025, they weren't hiding it anymore. Valentine's weekend sightings in Miami, private hotel appearances, subtle but undeniable signs that this wasn't casual. And what made it even more compelling was the narrative. Diggs reportedly told her, "Let me heal you." After everything she'd been through, those words mattered. They weren't about luxury, they were about safety, stability, emotional reset. And that's how this story really began. Not with drama, but with a woman trying to believe in love again. At first, it felt like a movie. By the time spring 2025 rolled around, Cardi and Diggs weren't just dating, they were everywhere. Valentine's weekend in Miami turned into public appearances. Then came the Knicks playoff game at Madison Square Garden. Courtside, holding hands, cameras flashing, no hiding. That was the moment it became official without needing a caption. And then the captions came anyway. In June, Cardi posted a carousel that had the internet losing its mind. Yacht photos, private jets, diamond gifts, giant bouquets of roses. The caption hinted at a new chapter. Jane, the message was clear. She was happy. Really happy. Diggs didn't play it cool either. He leaned all the way in. A $73,000 gold Patek Philippe Nautilus watch surprised her at London Jewelers. She walked in thinking he was shopping for himself. It was for her. He reportedly rented a castle in France for a private getaway. Public interviews where he praised her style, said he loved waking up next to her, called her mi esposa on camera. It wasn't subtle. And that's what made it powerful. After years of public heartbreak, Cardi wasn't hiding love this time. She was celebrating it. By July 2025, she announced she was pregnant. By November, their son was born. From the outside, it looked like destiny moving fast. But fast can feel like fate. And sometimes, it's just speed. Because while the romance was loud, or is the history behind the man stayed just as loud? If you were paying attention. Here's where the story shifts. Because while Cardi was posting yacht photos and diamond watches, another narrative was sitting right there in plain sight. Stefon Diggs didn't come into this relationship as a mystery. He came with history, multiple children with different women, overlapping timelines, public legal disputes, allegations that turned into lawsuits and countersuits, social media drama that never fully cooled off. None of this was hidden. It had all been documented long before Cardi ever entered the picture. Reports suggested he had fathered children with several women across different years. Some stories claimed multiple births within the same calendar year. Whether exaggerated or not, the reputation stuck. And reputations don't appear overnight. Even inside the locker room, the whispers existed. In a lighthearted team segment where players were asked which teammate they wouldn't let date their sister, Diggs' name reportedly came up more than once. It wasn't framed as criminal. It wasn't violent. It was about lifestyle, freedom, options, non-attachment. That's the key. He wasn't pretending to be a settled man. He wasn't marketing himself as the forever type. He was charismatic, confident, and very comfortable with his image. So the real question becomes uncomfortable. Was Cardi unaware, or did she believe she could be different? Because when someone has a visible pattern, love doesn't erase it. It challenges it. And if the pattern is stronger than the promise, history tends to repeat itself. And Super Bowl Sunday would put that theory to the test in front of the entire world. Now here's where things get even more interesting, because this wasn't a slow burn romance. This was acceleration. By mid-2025, Cardi wasn't just dating Stefon Diggs, she was carrying his child. The timeline moved quickly, from Miami in February, to courtside in May, to pregnancy announcement in July, to a baby born in November. Less than a year from new couple to newborn. That kind of speed does two things. It either locks people in deeper or exposes cracks faster. Diggs was publicly affectionate during this period, calling her mi esposa, smiling through interviews, standing next to her proudly. Family dinners, birthday parties, social media moments that looked genuine. On the outside, it felt stable. But stability isn't proven in highlight reels. It's proven in how someone handles pressure. And pressure was coming. Because while Cardi was building what looked like a fresh start, Diggs' world never paused. He still had children from previous relationships, still had co-parenting dynamics, still had past connections that didn't just disappear because he fell in love again. That's not a flaw. That's reality. The real tension was this. Could he balance all of that without creating disrespect? Because once a baby enters the picture, expectations change. It's no longer about romance, it's about hierarchy. And Super Bowl weekend would test exactly where everyone stood in that hierarchy, in front of millions. Something was off before the ball was even snapped. 2 weeks earlier at the AFC Championship, Cardi had been glowing, loud, supportive, on the field celebrating, talking about how hard Diggs had worked. The body language was affectionate, confident, united. Fast forward to Super Bowl Sunday. Red carpet cameras, ESPN microphone, one simple question. Any inspiring message for Stefon before the game? Her answer, good luck. 2 words, flat tone, no smile, no sparkle, no playful energy. And then she walked away. That moment went viral in minutes, because this was not the same woman from 2 weeks prior. This wasn't the animated hype partner. This was distant, controlled, almost detached. And here's the thing. Energy shifts don't happen randomly. They happen when something already broke behind the scenes. Fans immediately started connecting dots. Were they already arguing? Had something happened in the days leading up to the game? Was the breakup already in motion and just not public yet? Even commentators pointed it out. The contrast was too sharp to ignore. You don't go from affectionate sideline energy to cold 2-word send-off overnight without a reason. Super Bowl Sunday didn't feel like a celebration. It felt like tension in disguise. And if the pregame mood was that icy, what happened after the game would turn frost into fire. Then the game started, and nothing went the way it was supposed to. This was Stefon Diggs' moment. A full season of production behind him. Over 1,000 receiving yards, leading the Patriots in key categories. A chance to cement his legacy with a championship ring. Instead, the Seahawks dominated. Final score, 29-13. Seattle's defense controlled the night. 6 sacks, 3 turnovers forced. Kenneth Walker III running through the Patriots like it was practice. The momentum never swung back. And Diggs? 3 catches, 37 yards, no touchdowns. On the biggest stage of his career, he was nearly invisible. That alone would have been painful enough. Athletes live for moments like this. Years of training come down to one night, one opportunity, one performance. But here's what made it heavier. While the scoreboard told one story, the cameras were telling another. Every time they cut to the crowd, people weren't just watching the game. They were watching Cardi, watching Diggs, watching body language. When a player struggles on the field, the spotlight intensifies off it. By the fourth quarter, the energy was already strange. No sideline celebration shots, no couple moments, no reassuring hugs in the tunnel. Just distance. The Patriots lost the trophy. But what happened in the stands was about to overshadow the entire game. Because it wasn't the loss that broke the relationship. It was where certain people were sitting when the lights were brightest. Here's where the story stopped being about football. While Cardi was preparing for her halftime cameo, something caught her attention. And according to multiple reports, it shifted the entire night. One of Diggs' children's mothers was seated front row, not in a random section, not tucked away quietly. Front row, prime visibility, cameras everywhere, and it didn't stop there. She was reportedly sitting near Diggs' own mother. That detail is what made the situation explode. Co-parenting? That's normal. Acknowledging the mother of your child? Also normal. But optics matter. On the biggest night of your career, while your current partner is in the building, while she's performing during halftime, the seating arrangement sends a message whether you intend it or not. And messages don't need microphones, they just need cameras. To some people, it was maturity. A father being present for his child and respectful toward the child's mother. To others, it was hierarchy. A silent ranking system playing out in public. Who sits where, who stands beside who gets acknowledged on the biggest stage. That's the part that stung. Because when you're trying to build a new life with someone, placement matters, visibility matters, respect matters. Reports say Cardi left the stadium early. The $1.2 million after party she reportedly planned, neither of them showed up. By the next morning, they had unfollowed each other. The Super Bowl loss hurt, but the front row? That's what turned a rough night into a breakup. The morning after the Super Bowl, the unfollows were confirmed. And then the screenshots started circulating. Alleged private messages between Diggs and Cardi began spreading across social media. Unverified, but detailed enough to fuel debate for days. In the supposed exchange, Diggs' tone was calm, almost philosophical. The message, as it was read on radio and podcasts, centered around one idea. You walked into a life that already had history. Children, responsibilities, mothers of those children. He reportedly framed the situation as maturity, not disrespect. Said greeting the mother of his child on the biggest night of his career was normal, necessary, responsible. To him, it wasn't betrayal. It was balance. But Cardi's alleged response told a completely different story. She reportedly pushed back hard, accused him of wanting everything at once, his children's mothers, his family approval, in his new relationship, all coexisting without conflict. And then came the line that people couldn't stop repeating, "You lost the game, then you lost me the same night." Cold, direct, final. Her argument wasn't about co-parenting, it was about recklessness, about timing, about public respect. Because there's a difference between being present for your past and showcasing it in a way that diminishes your present. And that's where the culture split. Was Diggs simply being honest about who he is, or did he miscalculate what public actually looks like? The internet chose sides fast. But the debate wasn't really about them anymore. It was about expectations. Once the messages hit the internet, it stopped being just a breakup. It became a debate. Cam Newton weighed in first, and his take surprised people. He didn't call it permanent. He called it predictable. According to him, the first breakup in a serious relationship doesn't count. Emotions run high, pride gets loud, but that doesn't mean it's over. His bigger point? Diggs has an entire offseason ahead of him. Free time, space to think, space to move. And historically, Diggs doesn't sit still for long. Then Cameron stepped in with a different angle. Even if they were technically broken up, bringing another woman into the Super Bowl environment while Cardi was performing, that's messy. Timing matters. Optics matter. And then Mace flipped the conversation completely. His argument was simple. What if Diggs never lied about who he was? What if he's always been transparent about having multiple responsibilities and not being ready to settle down in the traditional sense? If a man shows you who he is up front, can you fault him later? That's where it got complicated. Because honesty doesn't cancel impact. You can be clear about your lifestyle and still create hurt. You can warn someone about your pattern and still disappoint them when the pattern repeats. The culture wasn't arguing about facts anymore, it was arguing about standards. Is transparency enough, or does love require evolution? And while everyone debated philosophy, one more person quietly watched from the sidelines, and that added another layer to the story. No drama this big unfolds without the past resurfacing. And in this case, the past had a name: Offset. As the Super Bowl fallout dominated timelines, reports started circulating that Offset had reached out to Cardi. No official statements, no public confrontation, just whispers that he saw an opening. And the irony wasn't lost on anyone. Cardi had left Offset because of repeated disrespect, overlapping situations, public embarrassment, emotional fatigue. She was facing headlines that looked painfully familiar. Social media didn't waste time drawing comparisons. Some users joked that Offset won the Super Bowl without playing. Others said he didn't win anything. He just waited long enough for history to repeat itself. But here's the uncomfortable truth. When someone leaves one pattern and lands in something that feels similar, people start questioning the chooser instead of the chosen. That's what happened next. Was this just bad luck, or was Cardi drawn to the same personality type twice? Offset's reported re-entry into the conversation wasn't about romance. It was about ego, about narrative, about the optics of redemption, because nothing fuels an ex more than watching the replacement stumble. But whether Offset truly wants reconciliation or just validation doesn't matter as much as this. The breakup stopped being about Diggs alone. It became about cycles. And the real question shifted from, what did he do, to something deeper. Why does this keep happening? Here's the thing about public breakups. They look dramatic. They feel final. They trend for 72 hours. And then reality sets in. There's a child involved. That changes everything. No matter how heated the alleged messages were, no matter how loud the internet opinions became, a newborn ties two people together in ways that pride can't easily erase. And history tells us something else. Cardi doesn't always stay done. Her relationship with Offset went through splits, reconciliations, emotional speeches, public apologies, and restarts. What looked final once wasn't final forever. So when Cam Newton said the first breakup doesn't count, people listened, because emotionally charged moments don't always equal permanent decisions. Now factor in Diggs' personality. He doesn't appear to panic publicly. He posts vague quotes, he goes quiet, he moves forward. That doesn't mean he's unaffected. It means he processes differently. And Cardi? She went on stage days later and told fans not to let anyone steal their happiness. She fought back tears, but didn't collapse. That wasn't weakness. That was control. So, is this over? Maybe. Or maybe this is just chapter 6 of a relationship that hasn't decided its ending yet. Because when love moves fast, it rarely stops clean. And sometimes, distance isn't a goodbye. It's a reset. When the noise dies down, when the memes stop, when the takes cool off, one truth stays behind. Patterns don't disappear just because the spotlight is brighter. Stefon Diggs didn't wake up on Super Bowl Sunday and suddenly become reckless. His history was documented. His lifestyle was visible. His past relationships weren't secrets. The signs were there long before kickoff. And Cardi didn't walk into this blind. She walked in hopeful. That's the difference. Hope makes people believe they can be the exception, that love will soften rough edges, that chemistry will override reputation, that this time will be different. But love doesn't rewrite history, it tests it. Super Bowl Sunday wasn't just a loss on the field, it was a collision between expectation and reality, between public romance and private structure. Maybe between "let me heal you" and "you knew what this was." Some will say Diggs was honest from day one. Some will say Cardi deserved better. Both things can exist at the same time. What this really exposed wasn't just a breakup, it exposed how fast fairy tales can move and how quickly reality catches up. Now, the only question left is simple. Was this heartbreak or was it inevitability? And just like that, one night changed everything. A Super Bowl that was supposed to crown a champion turned into a headline about heartbreak. A relationship that looked glamorous on Instagram unraveled under stadium lights. And two people who once looked unstoppable are now walking separate paths. But here's the bigger picture. This wasn't just about football. It wasn't just about fame. It wasn't even just about love. It was about choices, patterns, ego, boundaries. And what happens when private tension becomes public spectacle? Maybe this really is the end. Maybe it's just another chapter. With celebrity relationships, nothing is ever simple. Now I want to hear from you. Was this disrespect on the biggest stage, or just bad timing that got blown out of proportion? Do you think they'll circle back to each other, or is this truly finished? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more real conversations behind the headlines, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story. Trust me, this drama isn't slowing down anytime soon.